Ionavation. We out in New Rochelle, Ionavation. Moving with Intel, Ionavation. Now we in the groove, Ionavation. We making money and moves, hey.
Hello, Ionavators. Welcome back to the Ionavation Podcast. I'm Riana.
And I'm Gerry. And today we welcome on a very special guest, Tyler Hart, a former Iona student who is now a turned entrepreneur, is joining us today. So welcome, Tyler. Thanks for coming on. I guess to start off, do you want to give us just a little bio on who you are and your background?
My name is Tyler, and essentially what I do is I originally was going to go the corporate route. I was working at IBM, and I quickly realized that I hate sitting at a desk. So I think I made it there almost a year. I quit, and then I went into engineering. So now I actually run commercial skyscrapers in the city. I was at Bloomberg. I've worked at Radio City. I've worked at Bank of America Tower, working on all their critical systems, all their building infrastructure. And now I'm working at a power plant, one of the 5 that are off Con Edison in New York City. So I've completely 180'd my career from, I guess, desk job working in tax to now working in commercial real estate. And I guess the business that I work in is real estate as well. I guess you could call it a side hustle, but I guess my side hustle has surpassed my normal income. So I don't know what to call it now. I'm at like this point where they're sort of converging over. But essentially I buy, flip, and usually like to rent out properties in Connecticut.
You kind of talked about how you didn't want to sit at a desk job your whole life, but like, why did you start your business? Like, why real estate? Why did you go the path that you went down?
So for me, my end goal is, so I've always wanted to set myself up where like someone else is paying all my expenses, or I'm getting cash flow to pay for all my expenses, right? Because I feel like at that point, then you open up a lot more doors that you can go into and do in terms of a business standpoint. Like once you essentially, because like, and think about it, I view cash flow as rent, right? So obviously when you flip a house, you have the equity in your property, right? Say you buy it for 100,000, spend 50,000 in renovating it. Now it's worth 200. You just made $50,000 worth of forced appreciation in the property. But then on this side over here, you got your cash flow, which is your rent. Say now you got 50, let's say, we'll use the exact numbers of the loans I have. So on an $80,000 loan, you're paying, say, $400, $500 a month in rent. And then you have to also include property tax and insurance. But whatever you're renting for minus those expenses is something called cash flow. So that's like the heartbeat of your business, and you need that money coming in. So for me, that was the most important thing that I view it as. And it's very scalable. It's very, for me, it's getting really easy to replicate what I'm doing. But it takes a lot of work, and at that point, once I hit a specific number a month in rental income, that's when I can sort of hit the gas on doing more and larger projects, which is my goal, and to sort of hit the brakes more on working so hard at work.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that something that we try to foster here at the Hynes Institute is how interdisciplinary entrepreneurship really is. So how do you feel that you applied entrepreneurship in the real estate world?
Oh my God, everything. So like to say that you're like, I think entrepreneurship is like, people think it's this sexy topic and everyone's like, oh, they probably see me wearing this shirt right now and, and they're like, oh, this person's probably an entrepreneur. I literally have like cuts in my hand from putting up stone masonry walls all yesterday for like 12 hours on my weekend. My weekends are Wednesday and Thursday. I work a weird schedule. But, people think like, oh, this is so sexy. Like, oh, this person makes so money on this, that. For a while when I had the condo I was flipping in Massachusetts and then the house I just recently did, I was working literally 7 days a week, like 80 hours a week minimum, but I love that stuff. Like that's, people think like, oh, I'm going to start this company and do this and that. It's like, unless if you're literally out of your mind, there's about what you're doing, I don't know how people do it. Maybe it's because they have to provide for their family or something, but like you have to be sort of crazy to do like entrepreneurship while also working a job full time. Because I don't necessarily think it's a good idea just to jump 2 feet in the water. It's like the saying, you want to put 1 foot in first before you make the leap. And for me, I know I got to hit my magic cash flow number a month after all expenses in order to take that huge leap.
How has the journey been for you with your business? Like, what are some of the benefits and challenges that you've encountered? I know you just said one was that the hours picked up at one point big time. So like, what have been some of the challenges, some of the benefits, and then just the overall journey?
So the advantages. So real estate, I guess, from financial standpoint, the tax advantages are ridiculous. If you flip, rent out, hold, because this counts as a business, right? So it's like property, plant, equipment. Any accounting majors know that you can depreciate out assets, right? So specifically, a home has a depreciation schedule of 27.5 years. So I'm depreciating this asset. Say like you make $10,000 a year in rental income, right? You can depreciate that income and write it off. You can write off all your taxes, property, insurance. You can write off mortgage interest up to a certain amount. I forget the number, but I work with smaller properties, so it doesn't even matter to me. And then you could also depreciate the asset. So on paper, it looks like you're making no money, but you're really keeping a lot of that stuff because you're depreciating out all the assets. You can also do something called the cost segregation analysis when you have a little bit more property and new equipment you're putting in. And that's when you have an accountant come out to your property and write off all your machinery. So like I spent probably $15,000 just in like HVAC systems, plumbing, different things, updating this property I did recently. So they can depreciate that out on a schedule as well. So those are like the tax advantages in real estate. So, because at the end of the day, the largest expenses you're going to pay in your life is tax. So you have to figure out a way to minimize that and because essentially for me, I'm trying to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. So that's been really worked really well for me. Also, another financing thing, let's just do like the financing stuff first, and then I'll get into other stuff that's pretty cool. But you could also do things like cash out refinance. So I had like construction loans, obviously, for all the properties I worked on. They're pretty small, but essentially once you're done with doing the construction, you can roll over this higher interest rate, cost to borrow, higher risk loan into a conventional mortgage, which is at a much lower interest rate. So now your monthly mortgage payments just dropped. So, and at that point, you can do something called a cash out refi. So like I had so much equity in the house I just finished, I'm pulling out about, I think it's like 100 to go buy another property with. So that's like something that you have to think about if you want to scale in real estate. And that's like a financial benefit in that little field of the world. And that's relative to whatever topic or business that you're in. But for me, I know all the tax loopholes, and not really loopholes, just like using the tax system for your advantage.
Cool. And just to wrap it up, what are some goals that you have for your business? And it could be both short-term and long-term.
So what I'm trying to do is by 30, I'm trying to get at least $10,000 a month in passive income. So essentially it's like rents after all expenses. So for me, I'm going to probably need about 1.4 million in real estate in order to do that. So it's probably going to happen. And that's just, it's a product of finding discounted houses, getting places that cash flow. For me, my niche is Connecticut, low property tax areas, weird small grandfathered in lots, places that are usually like super run down. I bought a shell that used to be a drug dealer's house in the town of Danbury, which is in a beautiful neighborhood that overlooks the water. I don't know how I found this place, but like that's, you know, what I look for. I look for opportunity. So at some point, I would love to do something where I go and do, you know, like YouTube or something like that. I actually started a YouTube channel. I just don't really know how to market it at all. That's why I was talking about marketing with Riana. So that's what I want to do. I want to be able to go and do whatever the heck I want. Like I eventually want to have kids, and I want to be a stay-at-home dad, you know? And like my girlfriend now is amazing, and we plan on getting married. And, you know, this is something that a lot of young people don't think about. But for me, I want to have, especially because I watched both my parents work really hard, and it was cool that they had great jobs and stuff. But like me and my two brothers ran around like Connecticut essentially with no supervision, doing whatever we wanted. And we had a really good time at it. But it would be nice if like I had, my dad was home at like 4 o'clock instead of 6, you know, same with my mom. So that's why I would love to be able to be there for my kids. And I feel like at that 10,000 a month, you know, if I have like a pretty modest house, say like mortgage, property tax, insurance is like 2,000 a month, got all these rental properties, maybe 1 or 2 years paid off. I have a paid off house by then. That would literally set me up for the rest of my life and my family's life. Because obviously housing is your most expensive cost, you know, that and a car and then food. So if you can figure out one of those really well, which I think housing is the way to go, then the rest of your life will get easy. So my girlfriend now, you know, she grew up going all over the planet because her parents worked for the State Department. So that's a life that I would like to give my family one day. So, you know, having that excess income coming in, you know, I can do that. My house will be paid off. You know, we can go and do trips. If, you know, someone is like, oh, you know, I have to go to, say, Spain for water polo. Like one of my buddies who actually used to be the goalie on Iona's water polo team, Jorge Torres, shout out Jorge. If like one of my kids one day play water polo and they get an offer to go to Madrid like he did, you know, I could just send them. So that's essentially what I want, and goals out of my life. So I'm also very family oriented. So that's just how I'm designed and how I'm wired. Yeah, I mean, on YouTube, it's just Tyler Hart. You can just Google Hart. And yeah, I post stuff on there. So, you know, I'm slowly, it's like in real estate, it's weird. It's just like you start with a little, you do one project, and then it's like a step, and then you do another project, it's a step. You have these big incremental chunk increases. So I've done 2 projects, and I've really grown my net worth and my total assets significantly in these 2 projects. And once I get my 3rd one, it'll be another one and another one, another one. It's like a snowball effect. So I did a video on, if anyone's interested in real estate, I did a video on how I grew my small little account to what it is now. You know, that it goes over like how to get credit, how to, you know, pay off all your loans. My whole channel essentially talks about personal finance and like interesting financial topics that I find to be interesting. So whether it be like student loans, or it be like how to buy a car correctly, or, you know, how to grow your wealth, or tax implications, or whatever it may be.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Tyler, for coming on. And thank you to our audience listening. Just remember, as always, to follow us on social media, especially our Instagram at Hynes Institute, to keep up with all the upcoming events and other things that we have going on here at Hynes. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and just as always, come by and check out the space, and you know, you'll find out the great things we're doing here. So thanks again, Tyler, for coming on. We're going to sign off now. So yeah, so thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Next time.
We really working, Gale Ventures the spot. Bert and May got the podcast hot. We innovating, no debating, we creating. Ionavators in our lane, never hating. We just worry about us and what we do. Ionavation Podcast show, get in tune.